Our Perth reporter Emily Evans joins us live now from outside the Supreme Court in Western Australia. Emily, appreciate your time. The sentencing took several hours today. We heard some rather traumatic victim impact statements, really just bringing home just how horrific this man's crimes were. Take us through, what was the reaction in court when the sentence was announced from the people who were watching on, but also from Bradley Robert Edwards himself?
Well, the courtroom itself, Ash, was completely packed, as it has been throughout this entire, what feels like a year-long process since Bradley Robert Edwards first appeared in court on trial over these charges. As soon as Justice Stephen Hall handed down those life imprisonment sentences for the murders of Jane Rimmer and Ciara Glennon with a minimum period of 40 years, applause broke out in the courtroom, something which is unheard of when it comes to the justice system. Due to the usual manner of legal proceedings in courtrooms, it's really quite unheard of. So the judge did have to take a few seconds while the applause died down for him to continue on with handing down his sentence. As for Bradley Robert Edwards, no emotion, which, Ash, is really not surprising, as he has been unemotional throughout this entire legal proceeding. Even the judge himself said that Bradley Robert Edwards had a calm and unemotional demeanour while in court and was a stoic and controlled person, which aided Justice Stephen Hall to hand down that sentence today of life imprisonment with a minimum of 40 years to be served.
Emily, you've sat through the trial, the sentencing hearing today. What else stood out to you today about the impact this man had on his victims? Because we have seen that this is something that continues on, that the victims now are finding it hard to hug their children, hard to be affectionate with their partners. This is obviously something that these women are going to take, well, they probably will never get over the trauma that they've experienced at the hands of Bradley Robert Edwards.
Well, that's exactly right. And we heard victim impact statements that were read out by two of the victims in person in the courtroom. One from the Huntingdale victim who was attacked in her bedroom at night. She said she hasn't been able to sleep and she has a fear of being alone within her own house at night. In fact, she's only been alone, in her words, for 4 nights since the attack happened more than 30 years ago. We also heard from the Karrakatta rape victim as well, who spoke, as the judge put it eloquently in court. She described that attack as the most horrific night of her life, saying you don't ever recover from sexual assault. It's a lifelong sentence. She also turned to Edwards and said, I hope you are treated as well in prison as you treated us. So these were just two of the victim impact statements that were read out by the victims themselves. We also heard statements from the Huntingdale victim's mother and also from Jane Rimmer's mother, Jennifer, as well, who spoke about the impact of having her child taken away from her, which is something that Justice Stephen Hall also mentioned in his sentencing remarks today. He mentioned that no parent should have to outlive their child, and it's every parent's worst fear for their child to be killed.
Emily, what happens now? What sort of reaction are we expecting this afternoon? Are we likely to hear from any of the victims' family members, from the WA Police Commissioner, the Premier? What's the plan?
Well, I can confirm we are expecting to hear from the WA Police Commissioner, Chris Dawson. He was inside the courtroom for that sentencing and is expected to walk out of the stairs here at the Perth District Court at any moment, really. So we are waiting to hear from him. Of course, we did hear from him outside the front of court following the verdict back in September. He mentioned that Sarah Spears' murder, of which Bradley Robert Edwards was found not guilty of, that WA Police would never give up the search for her remains. We are, of course, waiting to hear from him when he walks out of court shortly. We also heard on the verdict day from Jane Rimmer's sister Lee whether she would be willing to speak after what's been such an emotional day today for her and for the Rimmer family. We are unsure of. We do know that we most likely won't hear from the Glennon family either. They actually didn't give a victim impact statement today in court. They spoke after the day after the verdict a while ago and mentioned that they weren't going to be giving any more statements in regards to this.
Emily Evans, thank you. We'll let you go and prepare to hear from the WA Police Commissioner, and of course we'll bring our viewers those comments as they come in.